The first lie in a marriage is rarely loud. Sometimes it is folded into the pocket of a navy blue suit, smelling faintly of hotel soap and another woman's perfume. Claire Bennett Caldwell finds it on a rainy Thursday night, at 11:17 p.m. while the dryer hums in the laundry room and the rest of the house sits too quiet around her. Outside, rain taps against the kitchen windows in thin silver lines, blurring the lights of the long driveway and the trimmed hedges Mark pays someone else to keep perfect. The house looks warm from the outside. Big porch, white columns, soft gold lamps. The kind of house people slow down to admire in the suburbs north of Chicago. But inside, Claire stands barefoot on cold tile, holding her husband's wrinkled dress shirt in one hand, wondering why his collar carries the sharp scent of a hotel she has never visited. Mark said the trip was just business. 3 days in Denver. Meetings, clients, late dinners, nothing interesting. He had kissed her forehead when he came home, dropped his luggage by the stairs, and said he was exhausted. He did not ask how her day was. He never does anymore. Claire tells herself not to look. A good wife does not search pockets like a detective. A good wife trusts. A good wife does not turn a thread of doubt into a rope around her own throat. But when she slides her fingers into the inside pocket of his suit jacket, something stiff brushes her skin. Paper. Folded twice. Press flat. Her heart gives one small warning knock. She pulls it out slowly. A hotel receipt. At first it looks harmless. Black ink. Corporate logo. Room charge. Restaurant charge. Valet. 2 coffees. 1 bottle of sparkling water. The ordinary language of business travel. Then Claire sees the guest name. Mark Caldwell. Her thumb lowers. There is a second name beneath his. Vanessa Whitmore. The kitchen seems to lose air. Claire knows that name. Everyone in Mark's world knows that name. Vanessa Whitmore, heiress to Whitmore Hotels. Vanessa with the red lipstick, diamond bracelet, and smile that never reaches her eyes. Vanessa, who once leaned close at a charity dinner and told Claire, "You are lucky Mark chose someone so simple. Men like him usually get bored." Claire had smiled that night because Mark was watching, because silence was easier than making a scene, because she still believed love meant patience. Now the receipt trembles between her fingers. 1 room. 2 names. 3 nights. Her eyes drop to the payment line, and that is when the pain turns into something colder. It was not Mark's personal card. It was not even his corporate card. The receipt lists a Caldwell Holdings hospitality account, with a sub-account name printed in clean, unforgiving letters. Claire B. Caldwell. Claire stares at it until the words stop looking like words. She has never authorized a hotel expense in her life. She does not even know how to access that account. The back door opens behind her. Mark walks in from the garage, loosening his tie with the tired confidence of a man who expects the world to move out of his way. He freezes when he sees the paper in her hand, only for half a second. Then his face settles. Smooth. Calm. Almost bored. "Claire," he says like she is the problem already. She lifts the receipt. "Why is Vanessa Whitmore's name on your hotel bill?" Mark exhales through his nose and sets his keys on the counter. Not guilty. Not ashamed. Annoyed. It was just business. The words land flat between them. Claire looks at the receipt again. At Vanessa's name. At the room charges. At her own name printed under a payment she never made. Her wedding ring feels suddenly heavy, like a small gold lock around her finger. She looks up at the man she married, the man who once promised her honesty under a white church arch with 200 people watching, and for the first time, she does not ask if he betrayed her. She asks the question that scares her more. "Mark," she whispers, "what did you put my name on?" Mark does not answer right away, and that silence tells Claire more than any confession could. He turns toward the sink, pours himself a glass of water, and drinks slowly, as if she has asked about a late credit card payment instead of another woman's name on a hotel receipt tied to her own. The kitchen light catches the silver in his watch, the watch she gave him on their first anniversary when she still believed gifts could carry love back into a room. "You are overreacting," he says at last. Claire almost laughs, but the sound gets trapped somewhere behind her ribs. Overreacting. The word is familiar. He uses it whenever she notices something he wants hidden. When she asks why he changed the password on the joint account. When she wonders why his mother introduces her as Mark's little homemaker instead of by her name. When she says she might want to work again. Overreacting. Sensitive. Confused. Tired. Anything but right. Claire folds the receipt along its original crease because her hands need something to do. My name is on this account, she says. I did not approve it. Mark sets the glass down too hard, but not loud enough to call it anger. He is careful like that. Always measured. Always polished. You are my wife. Our names are connected in more ways than you understand. There it is again, that smooth wall he builds whenever she gets too close to a door. For 3 years, Claire has lived inside that wall. From the outside, their marriage looks beautiful. The photos prove it. Mark in a black tuxedo, Claire in ivory lace, sunlight pouring through the stained glass windows of St. Andrew's Church. His hand at her waist. Her smile soft and hopeful. People said she looked like a storybook bride. They did not see her sewing a loose bead onto her own veil that morning because she could not bear to ask Mark for more money. They did not see her father's old pickup parked behind the church, the one she had driven before Mark insisted it was embarrassing. They did not hear Mark whisper, "Just let me handle everything from now on," as if protection and control were the same thing. Back then, Claire had been 29, working at a small interior design shop in Evanston, helping regular families choose paint colors, kitchen tiles, and curtains they could afford. She loved making ordinary rooms feel safe. Mark loved that about her, or said he did. "You are not like the women in my world," he told her on their third date. "You are real." She held on to that sentence for too long. After the wedding, real became simple. Simple became useful. Useful became silent. She stopped working when her mother's illness grew worse, because someone had to drive to appointments, manage medications, sit through long afternoons in a hospital room that smelled of coffee and antiseptic. Mark said, "Do not worry about money. That is what husbands are for." She wanted to believe it was kindness. But after her mother passed, the house did not become a home again. It became a showroom where Claire arranged flowers for dinner she was barely allowed to speak at. Mark handled the bank accounts. Mark handled the mortgage. Mark handled the calendar. Mark handled her. Gently enough that no bruise ever showed, but firmly enough that she forgot what freedom felt like. Now, standing barefoot on cold tile with rain sliding down the windows, Claire sees the shape of it clearly. She has no paycheck. No property in her name. Less than $400 in her personal checking account. Even the car she drives is leased through Caldwell Holdings. Mark steps closer, lowering his voice like he is doing her a favor. "Vanessa is part of a merger that could change everything for this family. Do not embarrass me because you do not understand business." Claire looks at the receipt again. Her name waits there in black ink, quiet and dangerous. She thinks of the church. The vows. The way he once lifted her hand and promised partnership. Then she looks at the man in front of her and realizes he never wanted a partner. He wanted a clean face beside him in photographs, a soft voice at dinner parties, a wife he could point to when powerful people needed proof he was trustworthy. Her throat tightens but her eyes stay dry. "And what am I in this merger, Mark?" she asks. "Your wife or one more line item?" For the first time that night, his expression changes. Not guilt. Not regret. Warning. And Claire understands that the receipt did not end her marriage. It opened a locked room inside it. Claire does not sleep that night. She waits until Mark goes upstairs, waits until the shower runs, waits until the bedroom door closes with the soft, expensive click of a house built to hide sound. Then she sits alone at the kitchen table with the hotel receipt spread flat beneath the yellow light. Rain keeps tapping the windows. The refrigerator hums. Somewhere above her, Mark moves across the floor like a man who believes the ground will always hold him. Claire studies the paper again, not as a wife now, but as the woman she used to be before marriage taught her to doubt her own eyes. Guest names. Room number. Dates. Charges. Account code. Sub-account. Claire B. Caldwell. The letters look so calm, so official, as if ink can turn a lie into truth. She takes out her phone and photographs everything. Once. Twice. Then she opens the junk drawer and pulls out the old blue sketchbook she has not touched in nearly a year. The cover is worn soft at the corners. A coffee stain darkens the bottom edge. Her maiden name is still written inside the front cover in careful black pen. Claire Bennett. For a moment, just seeing that name feels like opening a window in a locked room. She slides the receipt between 2 pages near the middle, but the paper catches on something. A drawing. She pauses. It is her old studio design, the one she sketched when she still worked in Evanston. Back when she helped young couples make tiny apartments feel like homes and retired teachers choose wallpaper for kitchens that smelled like lemon pie. The drawing shows a small storefront with wide windows, a wooden sign, 2 chairs near the entrance, and shelves full of fabric samples. Bennett Home Design. She had drawn a little porch light above the door, ridiculous for a storefront, but she liked the idea of a light left on for people who were trying to come home to themselves. Claire runs her fingertips over the pencil lines. Her wedding ring clicks softly against the paper. The sound makes her look down. The diamond is not huge by Caldwell standards, but it is flawless, chosen by Mark, praised by his mother, photographed by every cousin and aunt who wanted proof that Claire had been accepted. She twists it once. Her finger resists, as if even her skin has gotten used to being claimed. Then the ring slips free. Claire sets it beside the receipt on the open sketchbook. Golden paper. Promise and proof. 2 small things that have quietly ruled her life. In the morning, Mark leaves early without kissing her goodbye. Claire watches his black sedan roll down the driveway through a pale gray fog. The second the taillights disappear, she calls the bank number printed on an old Caldwell Holdings statement she found in the office drawer. Her voice is polite, steady, almost unfamiliar. I need to ask about a subaccount under my name. The woman on the phone asks for verification. Claire gives what she can. Address, date of birth, last 4 digits of her social security number. There is typing. A pause. Then the woman says, "Yes, Mrs. Caldwell. The hospitality subaccount has recorded multiple charges over the past 7 months." Claire grips the edge of the counter. "I have never used that account." Another pause, smaller this time. "The authorizations were submitted electronically." "By me?" Claire asks. The question feels absurd in her mouth. The woman hesitates. "They are under your profile." Claire closes her eyes. 7 months. Not one receipt. Not one signature she remembers. Not one conversation. After the call, she prints what she can access and spreads the pages across the kitchen island. Hotel charges. Private dining. Transportation. Conference suites. Names hidden behind vendor codes, but patterns clear enough to make her stomach turn. This is not one secret weekend. This is a structure. A trail. A room built under her name while she was busy watering flowers, smiling at dinners, and believing silence kept peace. When Mark comes home that evening, Claire has the papers stacked neatly beside his dinner plate. He stops in the doorway. His eyes drop to the stack, then to her face. For the first time, he does not look annoyed. He looks alert. "I called the bank," she says. Mark takes off his coat slowly. "That was unnecessary. There are charges going back 7 months. He walks to the counter, every step controlled. "You do not understand how corporate accounts work." "Then explain it." His jaw tightens. The kitchen feels smaller than it did yesterday. He leans in, not close enough to touch her, but close enough to make the air feel claimed. "Do not dig into things you do not understand, Claire." The warning is quiet. That makes it worse. She looks at the sketchbook on the chair beside her, the receipt hidden inside it like a match waiting for air. She thinks of her name on the first page. Claire Bennett. Not Caldwell. Bennett. The woman who drew doors before someone taught her to stand behind one. And in that moment, fear is still there, cold and real, but something else rises beside it. Not courage yet. Not confidence. Just a small, stubborn refusal to disappear. The next morning, Claire drives herself downtown before the sun has fully burned through the fog. The highway into Chicago is already crowded, lines of brake lights glowing red across the gray lanes. But she barely hears the traffic. The sketchbook sits on the passenger seat with the hotel receipt tucked inside it, wrapped in a scarf like something fragile. She has spent 3 years asking Mark for permission in small, quiet ways. Permission to spend. Permission to speak. Permission to be more than the pleasant wife at the end of his arm. Today she does not ask. Caldwell Tower rises from the financial district like a blade of glass, 50 stories high, its mirrored walls catching the pale morning light. Claire parks 2 blocks away because the visitor garage costs more than she wants to spend. The June air is warm already, but her hands feel cold as she walks past men in tailored suits and women with coffee cups and leather bags, all moving like they know exactly where they belong. She looks down at her simple beige coat, her worn flats, the sketchbook pressed to her chest. For one sharp second she almost turns around. Then she remembers Mark's voice. Do not dig. She keeps walking. Inside the lobby everything shines. White marble floors. Tall green plants. A security desk with polished steel edges. Behind it, the Caldwell name stretches across the wall in letters bigger than the sign on her first apartment building. The receptionist looks up with a professional smile that falters when Claire gives her name. Mrs. Mark Caldwell? She asks. Claire hears the correction inside it. Not Claire Bennett. Not a person. A relation. I need to see Ethan Caldwell. The receptionist's fingers pause above the keyboard. Do you have an appointment? No. Mr. Caldwell's schedule is usually booked several weeks in advance. Claire swallows. Tell him it is about a Caldwell Holdings hospitality subaccount under my name. The woman's smile disappears completely. She makes a call in a lowered voice. Claire stands under the bright lobby lights while people pass behind her, and every second feels like a test designed to make her leave. 5 minutes later, a young assistant in a charcoal suit appears near the elevators. Mrs. Caldwell? Mr. Caldwell can give you 7 minutes. 7 minutes. Claire nods as if 7 minutes is not the difference between drowning and being heard. The elevator rises too fast. Her reflection stares back from the brushed metal doors, pale but steady. When they open on the 48th floor, the city spreads beyond floor-to-ceiling windows, Lake Michigan silver in the distance. Ethan Caldwell's office is quiet, almost severe. No family photographs. No golf trophies. No warm clutter. Just dark wood, clean lines, and a man standing behind a desk with his jacket off and his sleeves rolled to the forearms. He is taller than Mark, with dark blonde hair brushed back, a controlled expression, and blue eyes that seem to notice everything without asking permission. Claire understands at once why Mark hates him. Ethan does not perform power. He simply has it. Claire, he says, not Mrs. Caldwell. The sound of her own name almost breaks something open in her. He gestures to the chair. My assistant said this was urgent. Claire sits, but she does not relax. She opens the sketchbook and takes out the receipt, then the printed pages from the bank. She places them on his desk in a neat stack. I found this in my husband's suit pocket. My name is on the payment account. I did not authorize it. Ethan picks up the receipt. His face stays still. His eyes move once over Mark's name, once over Vanessa Whitmore's, then stop on the account code. That is when something changes. Not shock. Recognition. He sets the paper down carefully, as if it has become heavier. Where did you get access to these records? I called the bank. Does Mark know? Claire thinks of the papers beside his dinner plate. The warning in his voice. Yes. Ethan looks toward the windows for half a second, then back at her. Did he tell you to stop asking questions? Claire says nothing. She does not need to. Ethan exhales slowly and presses a button on his desk phone. Cancel my next meeting. A voice responds, surprised. Sir, the Whitmore call is in 10 minutes. Ethan's gaze does not leave Claire's face. Cancel it. The line clicks off. The room goes silent except for the distant hum of the city below. Claire grips the edge of her sketchbook. What did he do? Ethan does not answer quickly, and she is beginning to learn that the most dangerous truths always arrive after a pause. He turns the receipt toward her and taps the account code with one finger. This is not a normal hospitality expense. It is attached to a merger liability file. Claire's mouth goes dry. What does that mean? Ethan's expression softens, but only slightly, like he is trying to decide how to say something without crushing her under it. It means someone may be using your name as the clean signature on dirty money. The words move through Claire slowly. Clean signature. Dirty money. Her name. Her marriage. Her life reduced to a place where blame could land. She looks down at the sketchbook open on her lap, at the old pencil lines of Bennett home design peeking from beneath her thumb. Can you prove it? She asks. Ethan studies her then, not as Mark's wife, not as a scandal, not as a fragile woman who walked into the wrong office. As someone standing at the edge of a fight she did not choose. Not yet, he says. But I can find out. Claire nods once. It is small. It is terrified. But it is yes. And across the desk, Ethan Caldwell closes the folder on his cancelled meeting with Whitmore Hotels, as if choosing in that quiet room above Chicago, which side of the family he is finally willing to stand against. By Friday evening, Mark is smiling again, and that scares Claire more than his warnings ever did. He stands at the foot of the staircase in a black tuxedo, cufflinks shining, phone in one hand, patience already running thin. The car is here, he calls. Do not make us late. Claire looks at herself in the bedroom mirror. The navy dress is one she bought 2 years ago for a Caldwell holiday dinner, then altered herself because Mark's mother said the original hem looked a little department store. Tonight, the dress is simple, elegant, and quiet. Exactly what they expect from her. Exactly what they underestimate. Her wedding ring is back on her finger because Mark noticed it missing that morning and stared until she slid it on without a word. But her sketchbook is hidden inside a flat evening bag, and the copied receipt rests between its pages like a secret heartbeat. Downstairs, Mark studies her with a polished husband's smile. Good, he says, as if she is a room prepared for guests. Tonight matters. The Whitmore merger announcement will be photographed by every business outlet in the Midwest. You will stay beside me, smile when appropriate, and avoid private conversations. Claire meets his eyes. You mean Ethan? His jaw tightens for half a second. I mean anyone who wants to use your confusion against this family. There it is. Family. The word he uses when he means control. The gala is held at the Whitmore Grand, a hotel with crystal chandeliers, black marble floors, and a ballroom large enough to make voices sound expensive. Cameras flash near the step-and-repeat wall. Waiters glide past with silver trays. Women in silk and diamonds kiss cheeks without touching them. Men laugh too loudly over glasses of sparkling water and private jokes about money. Claire walks beside Mark through it all, her hand tucked in the crook of his arm, feeling less like a wife than a ribbon tied around a package. Vanessa Whitmore waits near the stage in a red gown that catches every light in the room. Her blonde hair falls perfectly over one shoulder, and her smile appears the moment she sees Claire. Claire, Vanessa says, warm enough for anyone watching. How lovely. I was not sure you would come. The words are soft. The blade is not. Mark's fingers press lightly against Claire's waist. A reminder. A warning. Claire smiles. I would not miss such an important night. Vanessa's eyes flick to the ring on Claire's hand, then back to her face. Of course. Mark always says you are wonderfully supportive. Supportive. Simple. Useful. Claire feels the receipt inside her bag like a coal. Across the room, Ethan Caldwell stands near a window, speaking with 2 board members. He wears a dark suit, no expression wasted, but when his eyes find Claire, something in his posture changes. Not dramatically, just enough for her to know he is watching. The program begins at 8 o'clock. Mark takes the stage first, speaking about legacy, vision, and trust. Vanessa follows, praising shared values between Caldwell Holdings and Whitmore Hotels. Claire listens, and each word feels like another brick placed over the truth. Then the lights dim slightly, and a large screen behind the podium comes alive with slides. Financial projections. Property maps. Partnership language. A reporter near the front raises her hand. Mr. Caldwell, before the signing, can you address concerns about irregular hospitality expenses connected to the merger preparation? Claire's breath stops. Mark does not look surprised. Vanessa does not either. The screen changes. A spreadsheet appears. Names blurred. Account numbers partially hidden. One line remains clear enough to read from the back of the room. Authorized profile Claire B. Caldwell. A murmur moves through the ballroom like wind across dry leaves. Mark turns toward Claire with perfect confusion on his face. Perfect hurt. Perfect performance. Claire, he says, loud enough for the front rows. Do you know what this is? For one dizzy second the room tilts. Cameras shift. Faces turn. Vanessa lowers her eyes, playing sorrow so beautifully that Claire almost admires the craft of it. Another reporter speaks. Mrs. Caldwell, Did you approve private expenses through the company hospitality account? Mark steps down from the stage and reaches for Claire's hand. To everyone else it looks protective. To Claire his grip is a command. He leans close, his smile fixed for the cameras. Smile, he whispers. Do not make this worse. And suddenly Claire understands the shape of the trap. The gala is not just an announcement. It is a stage. Mark brought her here so the first public version of the story would belong to him. Poor confused Claire. Careless Claire. Maybe greedy Claire. The ordinary wife who did not understand business and signed where she should not have signed. Heat rises behind her eyes, but she does not cry. Not here. Not for them. She looks past Mark, past Vanessa, past the screen carrying her name like an accusation, and finds Ethan at the edge of the crowd. His expression is no longer cold. It is clear, focused, furious in a way that makes no sound. Claire pulls her hand gently from Mark's. The small movement is almost nothing, but the ballroom sees it. Mark sees it. Vanessa sees it. Claire lifts her chin, her voice quiet but steady enough to travel through the first row. I would like to see the original authorizations. Mark's smile thins. Claire, this is not the time. She looks at the screen again, then at him. No, she says. This is exactly the time. The room falls still, and for the first time all night, Mark Caldwell is not the only one controlling the story. Ethan reaches Claire before Mark can answer. He does not touch her. He does not step in front of her like she is helpless. He simply stands beside her, close enough that the cameras understand she is no longer alone. The original authorizations will be reviewed by the board, Ethan says, his voice calm enough to cut through every whisper in the ballroom. Mark's smile hardens. This is not a board matter, Ethan. A hospitality account tied to merger liability is absolutely a board matter. Vanessa moves quickly, graceful as always, one hand resting over her bracelet. There is no need to turn a simple administrative concern into a public spectacle. Claire almost laughs at the word simple. Nothing about this is simple. Not the way every face in the ballroom watches her, as if she is a stain spreading across white linen. Not the way Mark keeps trying to pull the room back into his hands. Not the way her own name glows on the screen behind him like a verdict written before a trial. Ethan turns to Claire, and his voice lowers. Do you want to leave? It is the first real choice anyone has offered her all night. Claire looks at Mark. He gives the smallest shake of his head, a private command dressed as concern. She looks at Vanessa, whose soft expression does not reach her eyes. Then she looks at the screen at the line that says Claire B. Caldwell, and thinks of the old sketchbook in her bag, the storefront she once drew, the porch light she imagined above a door that belonged to her. Yes, she says. Ethan nods once. Then we leave. They exit through a side corridor behind the ballroom, away from the chandeliers and cameras. The sound of the gala fades behind heavy doors until only Claire's breathing remains. Her legs feel unsteady, but she keeps walking. Ethan matches her pace, not rushing, not asking questions too quickly. In the service elevator, fluorescent light replaces gold. The mirror shows her pale face, his controlled one, and the narrow space between them filled with things neither of them says. I am sorry, Claire whispers, though she does not know what she is apologizing for. Ethan looks at her reflection. Do not apologize for someone else using your name. His office upstairs is dark except for the city lights and a brass lamp on his desk. The skyline stretches beyond the glass, Chicago glittering against the black surface of Lake Michigan. Ethan asks his assistant for tea, then closes the door and gives Claire the chair nearest the window. Not the chair across from his desk like a witness. The chair beside the small table, where the room feels less like an interrogation and more like a place to breathe. A few minutes later, a mug warms her hands. Chamomile. Honey. No one has made tea for her in years without wanting something in return. Tell me everything from the beginning, Ethan says. So she does. The receipt in Mark's pocket. Vanessa's name. The account under her profile. The charges going back 7 months. Mark's warning in the kitchen. The way he put the ring back on her hand without saying the words, because he did not need to. Ethan listens without interrupting. He takes notes, but not like a man collecting gossip. Like someone building a bridge across a dangerous river. When Claire's voice falters, he waits. When she says she should have noticed sooner, his pen stops. People who are controlled are often trained to call control care, he says quietly. Claire looks down into the tea. The words land with painful accuracy. Ethan opens a secure file on his tablet and turns it toward her. I had our internal compliance team pull preliminary records after you came to my office. This is not complete, but it is enough to see the pattern. Claire sees dates, vendor codes, approval stamps, routing numbers. Most of it blurs until Ethan points to one line. This profile was created under your name, but the login activity came from Mark's executive laptop. Her fingers tighten around the mug. So he signed as me. It appears that way. Why? Ethan swipes to another file. Because if the Whitmore merger triggered an audit, these expenses could be pushed onto a non-executive spouse with limited access. Someone easy to describe as confused. Someone outside the company structure. Claire feels the room tilt, but this time she stays seated inside the truth. A scapegoat, she says. Ethan does not soften the word. Yes. For a moment, the only sound is the faint hum of the building. Claire opens her bag and pulls out the sketchbook, needing something real beneath her hands. It falls open to Bennett Home Design. Ethan sees the drawing. His expression changes, not with pity but with interest. You drew this. She nods. A long time ago. It does not look like a dream from a long time ago. It looks like a plan waiting for someone to respect it. Claire swallows. Why are you helping me? Ethan looks from the drawing to her face. Because everyone in my family knows how to build empires. You are the first person I have seen in a long time who still wants to build homes. The sentence settles between them, warm and unexpected. Claire does not mistake it for romance. Not yet. It is something safer. Recognition. For the first time since the receipt fell from Mark's pocket, she feels the floor beneath her again. Ethan closes the tablet. We will need proof strong enough that Mark cannot explain it away. Claire looks at her ring, then slowly slips it off and places it on the table beside the sketchbook. The diamond catches the city light once, then goes still. Then let us find it, she says. Claire returns to the house just after midnight, carrying her sketchbook against her chest and her wedding ring in the pocket of her coat. The porch lights are on. Every window glows. From the street, the house still looks like a promise. Inside, it feels like a place waiting to judge her. Mark is in the living room, standing beside the fireplace with his tie loosened and a stack of papers on the coffee table. He does not ask where she has been. He knows. The television is muted behind him, frozen on a business news segment from the gala. Claire's face caught in an unflattering half-second beneath a headline about Caldwell merger questions. Mark turns off the screen with the remote. You embarrassed me tonight. Claire closes the front door carefully. You put my name on company expenses I did not authorize. You walked out with Ethan in front of cameras. His voice is low, controlled, almost gentle, which is how she knows he has already chosen his next move. Do you understand how that looks? Claire steps into the room but stays standing. The old version of her would have apologized just to lower the temperature. She would have folded herself small and waited for the storm to pass. Tonight, she lets the silence sit. Mark gestures to the papers. I spoke with legal. Of course he did. Not their lawyer. His lawyer. The family lawyer. The kind of person who says difficult decision when he means damage control. Claire looks at the stack but does not move closer. What is that? A clean exit. Mark says it like a gift. Divorce agreement. Confidentiality terms. A financial settlement. Enough for you to rent a small apartment and start over quietly. Quietly. The word lands harder than the money. For years, quiet has been the price of staying loved. Quiet at dinners. Quiet when his mother corrected her. Quiet when Mark came home smelling like places she had never been. Quiet when her own name began appearing on things she did not sign. And if I do not sign? She asks. Mark's eyes cool. Then compliance will proceed with the evidence currently available. The evidence you created. The evidence under your profile. He walks to the coffee table, picks up a pen and holds it out. Claire, listen to me. You are not built for this. Boardrooms. Investigations. Public pressure. They will tear you apart, and Ethan will move on to the next crisis. I am giving you a way out. She almost recognizes concern in his voice, until she sees what sits beneath it. Not love. Calculation wearing a familiar face. She looks around the living room. The white sofa she chose. The framed wedding portrait above the console. The silver bowl she keeps filled with lemons because a magazine once said it made a house feel fresh. She spent 3 years arranging beauty over emptiness. 3 years believing if a room looked peaceful, one day it might become peaceful. Did you ever love me? She asks. Mark blinks, annoyed by the question's uselessness. This is not about love. Claire waits. 1 second. 2. 3. Long enough for the answer to become undeniable. He looks away first. Something inside her aches, but it does not break. Maybe it broke slowly over years, and she is only hearing the sound now. You chose me because I looked harmless, she says. Mark's mouth tightens. I chose you because you were good for me. No, Claire says softly. I was good for your image. His hand closes around the pen. Sign the agreement. Claire walks to the coffee table. Her fingers brush the top page. Divorce. Confidentiality. Release of claims. No admission of wrongdoing. A neat legal blanket pulled over a dirty floor. The settlement number is larger than anything she has ever had in her own account, and for one dangerous moment she imagines taking it. A small apartment. A locked door. A life where Mark cannot tell her when to smile. But then she sees the clause near the bottom. Claire B. Caldwell accepts responsibility for any personal misuse of hospitality accounts prior to separation. There it is. The final room in the trap. Not freedom. Blame with a check attached. Mark places the pen in her hand. Be smart. Claire looks at him, this man with the perfect suit and empty promises, and realizes he still thinks fear is the only language she speaks. She bends over the agreement. Mark's shoulders loosen. He thinks she is signing. Instead, at the top of the first page in slow, steady letters, Claire writes one word. No. Mark's expression changes before he can hide it. Claire sets the pen down, removes the wedding ring from her coat pocket, and places it on the unsigned papers. The diamond flashes once under the lamp, bright and cold. I came into this house as your wife, she says. I am leaving as myself. She picks up her sketchbook and walks to the door. Mark's voice follows her, sharper now. You will have nothing. Claire pauses with her hand on the knob. For the first time all night she almost smiles. That is still more than what I had when I believed you. Then she steps outside into the warm summer darkness, with no ring, no settlement, no permission, and the first honest breath she has taken in years. By sunrise, Claire is in a small hotel room near the river, sitting at a narrow desk with her sketchbook open and a paper cup of coffee gone cold beside her. She has slept less than 2 hours, but her mind is clear in a way it has not been for years. Across town, Ethan and his compliance team have worked through the night. At 6:42 in the morning, his message appears on her phone. We found it. 3 words. Small enough to fit on one line. Heavy enough to change a life. By 9 o'clock, Claire walks into Caldwell Tower through the front entrance. Not the side door, not the service hall, not the path reserved for people who have been told to disappear. She wears the same navy dress from the gala, now wrinkled at the hem, with her hair pinned back and her sketchbook tucked beneath one arm. There is no ring on her finger. The receptionist looks up and recognizes her immediately. This time no one asks if she has an appointment. On the 48th floor the boardroom is already full. 12 leather chairs. A long polished table. Screens glowing on 2 walls. Mark sits near the center in a charcoal suit, freshly shaved, perfectly composed. Vanessa Whitmore sits 2 seats away, dressed in cream, her expression soft and wounded, as if she is the one who has survived something. Several board members avoid Claire's eyes when she enters. Others watch her with open curiosity. To them, she has been a headline, a risk, a wife attached to a problem. Claire takes the empty chair beside Ethan and places her sketchbook on the table. Mark's gaze drops to it, then to her bare hand. A flicker of anger passes across his face so quickly most people miss it. Claire does not. Ethan stands. Thank you for coming on short notice. Last night, concerns were raised publicly regarding hospitality expenses connected to the Whitmore merger. This meeting is to review the original authorizations, source access, and related communications. Mark leans back, calm as glass. Good. I welcome clarity. Vanessa nods. As do I. Ethan taps the remote. The first screen shows the same account profile that appeared at the gala. Claire B. Caldwell. The same accusation, dressed in corporate formatting. Then Ethan advances to the next slide. Login history. Device identification. Location data. Timestamps. The profile was created 7 months ago from an executive laptop assigned to Mark Caldwell. The room shifts. Not loudly. Just a breath. A chair creaks. Mark folds his hands. My assistant uses my devices for administrative routing. That proves nothing. Ethan clicks again. A calendar appears beside the authorization records. Several approvals were entered while Claire Bennett Caldwell was physically present at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, visiting her mother during end-of-life care. We have parking records, visitor logs, and security check-in times confirming she could not have initiated these transactions. Claire keeps her eyes on the table. She can smell the hospital again for 1 second. Coffee, sanitizer, wilting flowers, her mother's hand light in hers. Mark used those days. He used the worst hours of her life because he thought grief made good cover. Ethan's voice remained steady. The digital signature was not manually entered by Claire. It was generated through saved credentials access from Mark's device. A board member removes his glasses. Are you saying Mr. Caldwell forged his wife's authorization? Mark sits forward. I am saying this is being framed without context. Vanessa finally speaks, her voice gentle. Perhaps Claire shared access at some point and does not remember. These situations can be emotionally confusing. Claire looks at her then. Not with rage. With recognition. Vanessa has expected tears. Shame. A woman who can be pushed into sounding unstable. Instead, Claire opens her sketchbook and removes the hotel receipt. She lays it on the table. The original paper looks almost small in that room of screens and money. This is where I first saw my name, she says. Her voice is quiet, but the microphone in the center of the table carries it clearly. I thought I had found one betrayal. I did not know I was looking at a plan. Ethan clicks to the final slide. An email chain fills the screen. Vanessa's name at the top. Mark's beneath it. Subject line, clean exit liability. The room goes completely still. Ethan reads only the necessary sentence. Use the spouse profile as the non-executive authorization path. It keeps the merger clean if questions come later. Vanessa's face loses color. Mark's control slips. That was taken out of context. Claire looks at him across the table. For 3 years, she has watched him explain away every wound with smoother words. Not today. You told me I did not understand business, she says. Maybe I do not understand your kind. But I understand this. Business does not need a scapegoat. Betrayal does. No one speaks. Ethan turns to the board chair. I move to suspend Mark Caldwell from all executive duties pending external investigation, terminate merger discussions with Whitmore Hotels, and refer the evidence to independent counsel. The vote takes less than 2 minutes. One by one hands rise. Mark stares at them as if power has betrayed him by obeying rules. Vanessa gathers her bag with shaking fingers, no longer smiling. Claire does not watch them leave. She looks at the receipt on the table, then at the sketchbook beneath it. Gold is gone from her hand. Fear is not completely gone from her chest. But her name is hers again. And for the first time when the boardroom doors open, Claire walks out before anyone tells her where to stand. 6 months later, the first thing Claire Bennett unlocks every morning is not a mansion door. Not a company account. Not a room where she has to measure her voice before speaking. It is a small glass storefront on a quiet street in Evanston, with a painted wooden sign above the entrance that reads Bennett Home Design. The space is only 900 square feet, with wide front windows, 2 cream-colored chairs near the door, shelves of fabric samples along one wall, and a little brass porch light mounted above the consultation table because Claire never stopped loving the idea of a light left on for people trying to find their way home. On opening day, sunlight spills across the hardwood floor in warm squares. There are no chandeliers, no cameras, no women in diamonds pretending kindness. Just neighbors, old clients, a retired teacher carrying lemon bars, and a young couple who tells Claire they saved for 8 months to redesign their first kitchen. Claire listens to them like their budget matters because it does. Like their hope matters because it does. By noon, the studio smells like fresh paint, coffee, and flowers from people who remembered her before she became Mrs. Caldwell and welcomed her back after she chose to become herself again. The divorce finalized quietly 3 weeks earlier. Mark's name appears in business articles now beside words like suspension, review, and settlement. Vanessa Whitmore's merger collapsed before summer ended, and her family company spent months trying to explain emails that could not be softened by good lighting or expensive lawyers. Claire does not follow every update. She gave her statement. She signed what needed signing. She reclaimed her maiden name. Then she turned away from the wreckage and started building something with clean hands. Near the back wall of the studio, between framed sketches of breakfast nooks and reading corners, hangs a small shadow box. Inside it is the hotel receipt, flattened carefully, its ink slightly faded at the crease. Some people might think it strange to hang paint on a wall. Claire does not see it that way. She sees a door. The day a lie fell out of a pocket was the day she stopped shrinking herself to fit inside one. Beside the receipt is the first drawing from her old sketchbook, the original Bennett home design storefront, pencil lines soft from time. Reality has not matched it perfectly. The windows are smaller. The rent is higher. The porch light is real. That is enough. Late in the afternoon, when the last guests have left and the street outside turns gold, the bell above the door rings. Claire looks up from arranging tile samples. Ethan Caldwell stands just inside, holding a small paper bag from the bakery 2 blocks away. No entourage, no cameras, no perfectly timed entrance. Just Ethan in a charcoal coat, his blue eyes softer than they were the first day she walked into his office with shaking hands and a receipt she did not yet understand. "I brought cinnamon rolls," he says. "The woman at the counter said they are better warm, but I may have lost the argument with traffic." Claire smiles. "That sounds serious. Very serious. Possibly the worst business decision of my day." She raises an eyebrow, and he catches himself. For a second they both remember too much. Then Ethan looks at the shadow box on the wall. "You kept it." Claire follows his gaze. "I did. Does it hurt to see it?" She thinks before answering. There was a time when the paper would have made her hands shake. Now it feels smaller than it once did. Still true but no longer powerful. "No," she says. "It reminds me that I survived the version of my life where I kept explaining away the obvious." Ethan nods, and there is something like respect in the silence that follows. He walks to the consultation table and sets down the bakery bag. Then from his coat pocket, he takes out a small brass key on a plain ring. Claire recognizes it before he says anything. It is the spare key to the studio, the one she gave him only so he could let in the contractor when she was stuck at a supplier appointment. He places it gently on the table. "I wanted to return this before asking you something, so there is no confusion." Claire leans against the counter, amused and touched despite herself. "That sounds dangerously official." "It is not." Ethan's voice is quiet. "No contracts. No cameras. No favors disguised as affection. Just dinner if you want it. A real one. With someone who respects locked doors, open dreams, and your right to say no." Claire looks at the key, then at the receipt on the wall, then at the porch light glowing over the table she built with her own money. For years, love had been presented to her as protection, then used like a leash. This feels different. Not rescue. Not repayment. An invitation. She picks up the key and presses it back into Ethan's palm. "Keep it for tonight," she says. "You can lock up after we get back." Ethan's smile comes slowly, like sunrise across glass. Outside, Evanston settles into evening, porch lights blinking on house by house, street by street. Claire reaches for her coat. This time, she does not walk behind a powerful man or beside a lie. She walks out of her own studio next to someone who knows the difference between possession and partnership, leaving the little brass light glowing above the table, bright enough for anyone passing by to believe that home can be built again.